Hey, good morning, it's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right, it's me, Uncle Lou, live for you on LouTube today, and thanks for watching, I really appreciate it also. And two, back today with another 2018 college football team preview. Sticking with the SEC today, I did South Carolina yesterday, well, I did Kansas State yesterday too. If you haven't seen those, you can check those out. But back to the ACC today with the Kentucky Wildcats. An interesting team for 2018 for a couple of different reasons. But anyway, this Kentucky preview was a suggestion from Patreon member Wade P. So Wade, shout out to you, sir. Thank you for supporting the Uncle Lou channel. I really appreciate it. I can't tell you how much it means to me. You wanted to see a Kentucky preview, and this is for you, sir, and any other body out there who might be a Kentucky fan or an SEC fan or just a college football fan in general. If you want to sign up on the Patreon page and help support the channel, click the first link in the description of this video or any other video I've posted over the last couple of months, and it'll take you there. We do all kinds of stuff. I give a jersey away every month, a bunch of different stuff. You can find out more about it, just click that link. But Wade, this is for you, sir. Anyway, live show today at 3 p.m. Eastern, right? Today's Friday. Yeah, live show today, 3 p.m. Eastern. Join us for that. I take phone calls and argue with college football fans from all over the place. We have a great time. Anyway, enough chit-chatting. How you guys doing, by the way? Okay, good. Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get on with today's video previewing the 2018 Kentucky Wildcats. All right, so here we go. The Kentucky Wildcats out of the Eastern Division in the SEC, right? Coached by who? Mark Stoops. Been there a while now, 4 or 5 years, I guess it is. Seems like anyway. An okay job. Not very many 2 and 3 win seasons, which we have seen from Kentucky in the past. No real breakout seasons either, though. Stuck around the 7-8 win mark, have made a few bowl games, have had what most Kentucky fans and most college football fans would consider to be good seasons for Kentucky, but I don't think anything great, right? So we'll see how he's able to do this year. Let's wrap up 2017 for Kentucky. Not a very good job. They lost 4 of their last 5 games, so didn't end the season on a high note. Kentucky probably most remembered last year for losing to Florida at home. A bad Florida team, a terrible Florida team, a Florida team that Kentucky dominated for the majority of the game. A game in Kentucky last year that Kentucky fans went absolutely nuts about the week leading up to that game, calling it one of the biggest home games in forever. I mean, they were excited, they were fired up, they legitimately thought they had a chance, and they actually legitimately did have a chance to win that game. They were the better team. They outplayed Florida. They won the game in every possible imaginable way, except for the final score at the end. And how did they manage to do that? By sending 10 men out on defense instead of 11 on multiple occasions, leaving Florida wide receivers completely uncovered on the sideline for easy catches and touchdowns. It made absolutely no sense. Florida's offense was horrendous last year. They didn't have a quarterback that could complete a pass unless you just don't cover the receiver at all because you're playing with 10 men on defense. Just an epic and brutal and heartbreaking meltdown for Kentucky. And it's one of those situations where if you watch that game, that loss can clearly be placed on the coaches. And somebody's going to say, well, it's up to the player to know to get out there. Listen, that's a preparation issue. The fact that it happened multiple times, I mean, if the coaches are to blame for that, awful. I've already did my Florida preview, so I talked more about that game then. But anyway, I do a whole video on the embarrassment that was the Kentucky-Florida game last year. But anyway, so lost 4 of their last 5 last year, ending on a low note. Bad news, good news. Let's start with the bad news for Kentucky. No quarterback on their roster who's ever taken a snap in Division I football. They've got a transfer from a junior college, right? Well, he signed with Oregon, didn't play there, went the JUCO route, now to Kentucky. We'll see if that works out. No wide receivers on this year's team with more than 30 catches last year. That could be a problem, right? What are the positives? Benny Snell, probably the best running back Kentucky's ever had, probably going to break every rushing record at Kentucky. The only Kentucky running back to ever go over 2,000 yards his first 2 years at Kentucky. The guy is legitimately a beast of a running back. There's nothing bad or negative myself or anyone else really could say about Benny Snell. The guy is the real deal. And you get 8 starters back on defense. So some good, some bad. Heading into 2018, more on the quarterback situation. You get the guy from Oregon, okay? Terry Wilson is his name. Is he good? Is he bad? He's never played Division I. We'll see. He wasn't good enough to play at Oregon. The JUCO route now to Kentucky. We'll see. There's also a sophomore on the roster. What's his name? Hoke? I had to write it down. Yeah, Hoke. He's a sophomore, so he's been there a couple of years. Never seen the field, though. Not even, no mop-up duty, no coming in at the end of the game to take a knee, nothing. Guy's never played a snap, but he has been there for 2 years, so he has a head start on the playbook. Problem for him is he's more of a pocket-style, pro-style pocket passer, whereas this other guy, Wilson from Oregon and the JUCO, is one of these run-around, read option type of guys, and I think that's really what Kentucky wants to do. So unless this Wilson guy has some sort of huge issue figuring out the playbook or learning the plays or something along those lines, I fully expect him to be the guy in Kentucky this year. I just don't think Kentucky wants to go to a pro-style type of thing with the offense that they have. I have a feeling that's why they brought this Terry Wilson guy in, and I have a feeling that's going to be who they end up going with. Running back, of course, we mentioned Benny Snell. I mean, this guy's elite, and he's only going to get better. Kentucky returns 4 starters on his offensive line. So Snell over 1,000 last year, gets that same offensive line back this year, almost, minus 1 starter. And of course, you were more stable at the quarterback position last year than you were this year. How much will that affect Benny Snell? I don't know. I probably looked at Kentucky to lean even more on Benny Snell this year than they did last year. Wouldn't surprise me if he can stay healthy to see Snell get close to 1,400 yards this year. I really think they're going to ride him. Your wide receivers, I mentioned only or not having any wide receivers with over 30 catches or whatever coming back this year. But you do get this guy back, what's his name? Baker. He'll be a senior. He missed all last year with an injury, so maybe he can step up for you at the wide receiver position and fill in an obvious gap and hole that you have on the offensive side of the ball there. So offensive line will be solid, running back will be solid, no problem. Question at quarterback position and question at wide receiver. Now, on to the defense, and this is some good news here if you're a Kentucky fan. You return 8 starters off your defense. That's the good news. The bad news is those 8 starters played on a defense last year that were 92nd in the nation in yards allowed. Hopefully they got a whole lot better in the offseason because that's a terrible defense. 92nd in the nation in yards allowed. That tells me they could not get off the field on 3rd down. Offenses had no problem sustaining drives against Kentucky last year. To be ranked that low in yards allowed is bad news. What else? Positives on your defense. You had 2 guys, juniors, that probably could have gone to the NFL last year. I think they both considered going. I could be wrong, but I think they both considered going to the NFL. Linebacker Allen and your safety Edward. 2 of the best players on your defense. They both chose to come back for their senior year. So that gives you big time, talented, experienced senior leadership there at the 2nd and 3rd level of your defense. That will help, I think. I think Kentucky's defense will be better this year. Your secondary, now Stoops called this secondary, I believe, the most talented group of secondary guys he'd ever coached or recruited, right? A couple of years ago when he signed them all. They haven't really lived up to that hype or that billing. Can they do it this year? Kentucky better hope that they can. I think Kentucky's going to struggle this year. I think they're going to hover around the bowl eligibility mark by the time it's all said and done at the end of the season. And I think it's going to come down to a couple of games and which way they go that determines whether or not Kentucky wins 5, 6, or 7 games. I can't see Kentucky. I don't see any way possible Kentucky wins more than 7. I also find it hard to believe they win, maybe 4. let's just put the schedule up and we'll go through it game by game and we'll see where it lands. So you guys know how we do this, same way we do it all the time. I'll go through the schedule pretty quick. The first time I'll give you a group of games that to me are guaranteed wins. I'll give you another group that to me are guaranteed losses. And then I'll have another group of games that I think are maybe toss-up games, coin flip situations, too close to call, that kind of thing that could potentially go either way. I'll go back through the schedule a second time, and I'll spend more time talking about those toss-up games, and I will pick a winner and a loser for every single game. And by the end of the video, we'll try to come up with an overall regular season record for Kentucky. Of course, I'm more concerned about trying to gauge the correct overall record than I am about getting all 12 games right or wrong. But let's just start going through it and see what we're looking at here. Okay, week 1, start out at home against a lower classification school, non-Power 5, Central Michigan. Central Michigan is not a pushover team. Are they elite? Should they be competing with Power 5 or SEC teams? No, they shouldn't. But this isn't the easiest possible game you could have scheduled for week 1. I'll just put it that way. It's just hard for me to ever pick one of these teams to beat a Power 5 team. I know it happens every year. It's just hard for me to foresee it happening. It's hard for me to pinpoint which games it might be. I gave you a win here. Don't screw this quarterback situation up, Kentucky. This is you need this win. Really, really. I'm telling you right now, if you lose this game, you're not making a bowl. 0 chance. I have you as a win. You better make the right decision at quarterback, though. Week 2 at Florida. Loss. When I did the Florida preview, I said it, and I mean it, too. This isn't trolling or me just trying to be funny or kidding around or whatever. I'm never picking Kentucky to beat Florida again after what I saw last year. I'm never doing it. I'll just keep picking Florida until I'm wrong. I'd rather be wrong. I'd rather pick Florida and be wrong than pick Kentucky and be wrong. After what I saw last year, I don't know what it is, some kind of mental block. I mean, I just don't get it. You guys had that game, won and gave it away. I'm never picking Kentucky. This one's on the road for you. You got to go down to the swamp and play. I've already done a Florida preview, so if you've seen it, you already know. But I give Florida the win there. I think you toed an L. You lose your first SEC game of the year on the road at Florida. You're sitting at 1-1. All right, then you come back home and play something called Murray State. This ain't basketball. If this basketball, it'd be a good game, wouldn't it? Kentucky versus Murray State in basketball would be a good game. Not so much in football. Even though you can't beat Florida this year, you have no problem getting the win over Murray State. You're sitting at 2-1. All right, you stay home and you play Mississippi State. Loss. Mississippi State is going to be a good team this year. I've been telling people this for a while. No one wants to listen, really. Now, some people are starting to come around now because ESPN and a lot of these preseason magazines and stuff like that are starting to talk about Mississippi State. Uncle Lou's been telling you about them since January. I've especially been telling Florida fans about Mississippi State because it's going to be hilarious when Florida goes to Starkville and gets it pushed in by Mississippi State, which is happening. You're getting it pushed in by Mississippi State too, but you're getting it done at home. They're going to come to your house and beat the brakes off you. This won't be a close game, in my opinion. Can your defense slow down Nick Fitzgerald and that Mississippi State offense? Maybe. Maybe. But you don't have what it takes to compete with Mississippi State this year, in my opinion. Nick Fitzgerald will be the best player on the field. Well, Benny Snell may be the best player on the field, but that's just not enough to beat Mississippi State. I'm sorry. They've got a good front seven. Will they stop Benny Snell? No. Can they slow him down enough to win this game? Yes. I think you lose your second SEC game in a row. You're sitting at 2-2. Another home game against South Carolina. I list this as a toss-up because you guys have beaten South Carolina 4 years in a row. Do I think Kentucky is going to be a good team this year? No. Do I think South Carolina is going to be a good team this year? Yes. Does that mean they'll beat you? No. South Carolina was good last year and couldn't beat you. So I have this game listed as a toss-up. Of course, I did the South Carolina preview just yesterday. So most of you probably saw it and you know which way I go on that game. But for the sake of this video and trying to be fair to the Kentucky fans, I put it as a toss-up. And I'll come back and give you a winner or a loser here in just a minute. All right, now you go on the road at Texas A&M. Another toss-up, another team I've already done the preview for. So if you've seen it, again, you know which way I'm going. But a lot of people only watch the videos of the team that they're a fan of. So there's a lot of Kentucky fans watching that might not have seen those two videos. That takes you into your bye week. Right in the middle of the season, great job. Some of these teams I'm doing have bye weeks, week 2 and 3 or week 11 and 12, makes no sense. So good job there. Coming out of the bye week, you get Vandy at home. I have that as a toss-up too. I've done the Vandy video, so you know which way I'm leaning there. In my opinion, though, Kentucky and Vandy, not very good. Kentucky, Vandy, and Tennessee. I mean, you close your eyes and pick one of those teams. They're finishing last in the East, right? Toss-up, though. At Missouri, loss. I'm high on Missouri this year. I was high on them last year. I looked like an idiot the first half of the season. They started 1-5, then they won their last 6 games of the year, making a bowl game before losing in that bowl game to Texas. But Drew Lock comes back. I've said it a million times. He's going to throw for 4,000 yards. He's going to throw for, he's going to throw 40 times a game. Missouri's going to put up some points. Missouri's going to beat some teams they're not supposed to beat. Blah, 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 blah. Their defense is not that good. I know that. But listen, you can't keep up with Missouri. It's on the road. I mean, Kentucky, Mizzou, neither one has a home field advantage. Really doesn't matter. You play this game on the moon. Wouldn't make a difference. Wouldn't make a difference in attendance either, really. Would it? Probably not. You're not going to win this game. Missouri wins it. I'm sorry. I'm a believer in Mizzou this year. They're going to beat you and several other teams, too. I'll do a Mizzou preview at some point. Then you come back home. Lucky you. But you got to play Georgia. That's not lucky for you. You lose that game. Yes, obviously I'm a Georgia fan. I do these previews straight down the middle, though. I've already done a Georgia preview. I didn't pick them to go 12-0. If you want to know what I did on Georgia, after this video, you can click back and find it. 2 weeks ago, I think I did the Georgia preview. So I didn't pick them to go 12-0. Not just a blind homer here, trying to go down the middle. Georgia's just a better team than you. I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't know. You're not winning that game. Georgia will beat you. Then you go on the road at Tennessee. Toss-up. You beat them last year for what, the second time since football was invented or something like that. I mean, I don't know, you beat them more than that, but point is that was the second time you beat them in something like the last 35 or 40 years or something. But you did beat them last year. You got to go on the road, play them there. They got a new coach, Jeremy Pruitt, new defensive scheme. What are they going to do on offense? Who knows? They don't know who their quarterback is either. This will be a terrible game, won't it? Yes, it will. Benny Snell will be the best player on the field once again. Is that going to be enough? It's a toss-up. I've already done the Tennessee video, but I had it as a toss-up in that video before picking a winner, so to be fair, I'll do it again here. Come home, play Middle Tennessee. Win. But, man, Central Michigan and Middle Tennessee, these two non-con games you have are, I mean, these are tricky games, but you need to win both of these games. I mean, you have got to win both of these games. I'm giving you the win. And then on the road at Louisville, rivalry game, Thanksgiving weekend, you play this game every year. You split with them the last 2 years when they had Lamar Jackson, losing last year, getting destroyed last year, really. Winning the year before. Of course, Lamar Jackson gone now. Toss-up. All right, so what are we looking at here? Central Michigan win, Florida loss, Murray State win, Mississippi State loss, South Carolina was a toss-up. You lose that game. I think South Carolina's the better team. I know they've lost 4 straight to you. I think this is the year they break the streak. South Carolina and the Fighting Will Muschamp stroll into Lexington, Kentucky, and finally get over the hump and beat Kentucky. Congratulations to South Carolina. Well deserved. South Carolina may tear the goalpost down after this game, even though it's at your stadium. So watch out for that. This is talking about a group of people here that's got no manners or home training. So just be on the lookout for that. At Texas A&M, I had as a toss-up. I think you lose that one too. I'm sorry. Jimbo Fisher got to be an upgrade over Kevin Sumlin. It just wasn't a good fit, Sumlin at A&M, for a variety of reasons. A lot of them weren't Kevin Sumlin's fault and were the fault of backwards thinking idiots. But anyway, point is, I think they're going to be improved under Jimbo Fisher. They've got a more talented roster than Kentucky. And like I said, Kentucky might have the worst coaching staff in the SEC after what I saw last year. I think you lose this one on the road to the 12th man, and Texas A&M gets the win. Vandy, you beat Vandy. there you go. An SEC win. You beat Vanderbilt. I think Vanderbilt taking a huge step back this year. I think they'll probably be worse than you guys this year, and I give you the win. You get them at home. They do have Kyle Shermer back. Vandy does. He's a good quarterback. He's not great. He's good. Probably better than your quarterback. But I like Benny Snell against that Vanderbilt defense, which is non-existent. They gave up something like 40 points a game in the SEC last year. I don't see it getting much better for them this year. You'll win that game against Vanderbilt at home. Of course, at Mizzou was a loss. Georgia was a loss. I think Tennessee beats you. I think they get an SEC win here, finally. You lose to Kentucky. You got to play them. You got to play them there. So it's a road game. You're going to be coming off 2 losses. You lose at Mizzou. You lose at home to Georgia. Back on the road to Tennessee. Like I mentioned, you've only beat them twice in the last 35 or so years. I don't think you make it a third time. I think Tennessee finds a way to get an SEC win, and they beat you. So that's just what it is. Middle Tennessee, of course, win. And then at Louisville, I'm giving you a win at Louisville. This has been a weird series, the Kentucky-Louisville series. The better team doesn't always win these rivalry games, right? I find it hard to believe that Louisville is going to be better without Lamar Jackson than they were with him. They were stuck around the 8-win mark with Lamar Jackson. I don't see how they get to that year 1 without him. I think Louisville is going to be a little bit worse. You got to find a way to get Benny Snell going in this game. Whatever you do at the quarterback position, it'll definitely be figured out by this point in the season, or you really have the worst coaching staff in history because it's the last game of the year. I'm an SEC homer, and that's probably playing into my pick in this game a little bit. I try to keep that stuff out of these previews and predictions, but I'm giving you a road win over your rival on Thanksgiving weekend to end the season at Louisville. That's the good news. The bad news is I have you missing a bowl game, finishing at 5-7. You want to look glass half full. Maybe you find a way to upset somebody on there. Maybe you beat a Tennessee or a Missouri or a South Carolina. That would get you to 6 wins. Of course, it's probably just as likely, in my opinion, that you lose one of the games that I have as a win. Louisville comes to mind. And finish at 4-8. And like I said, if you lose week 1 to Central Michigan, all bets are off. You could be as bad as 2-10, honestly, in my opinion. If you lose week 1 to Central Michigan, I could see you sitting at 2-10 maybe. Please don't do that. That would be embarrassing to the SEC. And I don't feel like hearing about it in the comments section from all these Big Ten nerds. But have a good morning, though.